Recently, a favorite YouTuber of mine by the name of Critical, or his channel Penguin Zero, i.e., aka Charlie White, responded to a video by Vegan Gains in which he was calling him a hypocrite for having eating meat, but also finding the channel where Soo Young eats. I cannot fucking speak today. Eats octopus alive, or eats octopi alive. Now, there are a couple things that Charlie says in the video that I respectfully disagree with. Now, I want to start by saying I love Charlie. He's one of my favorite YouTubers. He's smart, he's charming, he's funny, he's quick-witted, he's sexy. If I could take his taut little ass behind a barn for 5 minutes, I would. That is, if he is consenting, of course. I'm not into the whole rape thing. But anyway, there were things that he said in the video in response to some of the things Vegan Gains said. I also want to say that I think Vegan Gains is a deplorable human being. I want to smash the baby in a fucking pavement. That guy. Vegan Gains does not represent the face of veganism. I haven't thought about Vegan Gains in years, and unfortunately now I'm thinking about him again. He's a fucking asshole, and he's just downright vitriolic and mean to other people who don't fall into his line of beliefs. I'm pretty sure he disrespects women, too. I'm pretty sure he has a very low opinion about any mother on the face of the earth, which says a lot about his own mother. But having said all that, I want to go through some of the things that Charlie said in this video and address them because it's an important topic to me, and he's a favorite YouTuber of mine, and I saw this and I had to say something about it because it matters to me.
Than the animals that So Young horrifically murders on her YouTube channel. So it's completely hypocritical for you to criticize So Young when you can't even do that yourself. So you're just a complete hypocrite, and if anything, what you're doing is arguably worse because, again, you're paying someone else to do it.
Now I'm only going to be taking bits and pieces of his video because it's a 12-minute video, but 6 of those minutes is dedicated to showing what goes on behind closed doors in the meat industry and the horrible shit that happens there in some of those places. But I want to focus on the points he himself is making. So this one here, I am just as bad if not worse than So Young because I'm paying someone to do what she does on camera. But that's not it either. Like, you're totally fucking wrong. I'm not paying someone to torture animals. What people who eat meat are under the impression of, they're paying someone to humanely provide that food for them, given the circumstances, as humane as it can possibly be.
But the thing is, about that, you actually are. The point of this video is not to attack Charlie. I really can't find any real negative things to attack Charlie for. That's not the point of this video. The issue Charlie has here is his carnism. People who eat animals are compartmentalizing how they feel. Now, carnism is not my word. I didn't come up with it. Carnism is a concept used in discussions of humanity's relation to other animals, defined as a prevailing ideology in which people support the use and consumption of animal products, especially meat. Carnism is presented as a dominant belief system supported by a variety of defense mechanisms and mostly unchallenged assumptions. The term carnism was coined by social psychologist and author Melanie Joy in 2001 and popularized in her book Why We Love Dogs, Eat Pigs, and Wear Cows. Central to the ideology is the acceptance of meat eating as natural, normal, necessary, and sometimes nice, known as the 4 Ns. An important feature of carnism is the classification of only particular species of animal as food and the acceptance of practices towards those animals that would be rejected as unacceptable cruelty if applied to other species. This classification is culturally relative, so that, for example, dogs are eaten by some people in Korea but may be pets in the West, while cows are eaten in the West but protected in much of India. Melanie Joy is an American social psychologist and author primarily notable for promulgating the term carnism. She is the president of Beyond Carnism, previously known as Carnism Awareness and Action Network, a nonprofit advocacy group which she founded in 2010, as well as a former professor of psychology and sociology at the University of Massachusetts in Boston.
Every day we engage in a behavior that requires us to distort our thoughts, numb our feelings, and act against our core values, and which enables a global atrocity that can make even the most stoic of us weep in sorrow. And every day we could choose not to engage in this behavior, except we don't realize that it's irrational, we don't see that it's destructive, and we don't even know we have a choice. In meat-eating cultures around the world, out of over 7 million animal species, people tend to classify only a handful as edible. All the rest are inedible and disgusting. So the question is, why are we not disgusted by the select species we have learned to think of as edible? There is an invisible belief system or ideology that conditions us to eat certain animals. And I named this system carnism. We tend to assume that only vegans and vegetarians follow a belief system, but when eating animals is not a necessity, which is the case in much of the world today, then it is a choice, and choices always stem from beliefs. Now, carnism is a dominant ideology, meaning that it's so widespread, its doctrine is seen as a given rather than a choice. Ideologies such as carnism run counter to core human values, values such as compassion, justice, and authenticity. And so they need to use defense mechanisms that distort our thoughts and numb our feelings so that we act against our values without fully realizing what we are doing. Now, the main defense of carnism is denial, which is expressed largely through invisibility. The ideology itself is invisible, and so are its victims. For instance, 1.2 billion farmed animals are slaughtered globally every week. So, in 1 week, more farmed animals are killed than the total number of people killed in all wars throughout history. We are also victims of the system. We pay for our carnism with our health, as eating an animal-based diet can lead to serious disease, while eating a plant-based or vegan diet can optimize health. And we pay for our carnism with our hearts and with our minds, with our dampened empathy and diminished objectivity. Justification. And the way that we learn to justify eating animals is by learning to believe that the myths of meat, eggs, and dairy are the facts of meat, eggs, and dairy. These myths are expressed largely through what I refer to as the 3 N's of justification. Eating animals is, what do you think? You're good. Great. Okay, normal, natural, and necessary. And haven't we heard this somewhere before? Slavery is normal, natural, and necessary. Male dominance is normal, natural, and necessary. Heterosexual supremacy is normal, natural, and necessary. And as with other dominant violent ideologies, the myths of carnism are institutionalized. So carnistic bias is embedded within the very foundations of the system. And when we are born into an institutionalized system such as carnism, we inevitably internalize it. We learn to look at the world through the lens of carnism. And carnism uses a set of defenses that distort our perceptions of farmed animals. For instance, carnism teaches us to see farmed animals as abstractions, as lacking any individuality or personality of their own. A pig is a pig, and all pigs are the same. And carnism blinds us to the absurdities of the system. And carnism is but one of the many atrocities, one of the many violent ideologies that are an unfortunate part of the human legacy. And although the experience of each set of victims will always be somewhat unique, the ideologies themselves are similar. The mentality that enables such violence is the same.
The reason I cite this information is because I feel it's important to what we're talking about in order to have a legitimate conversation about whether or not eating animals is wrong and caring about some while not caring about others is somewhat of a moral quandary. It's completely subjective how we treat animals based on where we live. I live in America, Minnesota specifically. Charlie lives in America as well. I believe he lives in Florida, and my heart goes out to you. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry you live in Florida. So we eat cows here in America, and that's just culturally accepted as the norm. Whereas people in India might find Americans to be animalistic terrorists, not just because of our foreign policy and wars, but a cow in India is a protected, respected, and beloved animal. We don't care about them as much here. Back to the point of paying for the animal to be killed. You are subsidizing the killing of the animals that you eat, and it's not really done in a humane way most of the time. This is an area where I just fundamentally disagree with his take on it, is because you have to send money to the manufacturers and producers of meat in order for you to have the meat that they had to kill in order for them to make money. There's an inherent profit motive in an industry. You have to be paid money for the product you're providing. You are paying for an animal to be killed. You might not believe that you're paying for the animal to be tortured, but what occurs in and around factory farming is comprised of a torturous culture. Not only are the animals mistreated and viewed as expendable, but even the workers and the slaughterers in factory farms. If Charlie goes to the store to buy a pound of beef or some frankfurters, you are giving money to the industry that pays its workers to kill animals. Those workers sometimes just horribly mistreat the animal even before killing them. They're just in foul conditions. If you buy that product, you are giving money to people who mistreat animals. That's where I just fundamentally disagree.
If I found out the place I'm getting my meat from has a fucking YouTube channel where they're finger blasting cow carcasses and using chicken corpses as baseball bats, I'll stop buying from it, obviously. No one is paying for these animals to be paraded around on YouTube and tortured, have salt poured on their corpse so they wiggle around and scream. No one's paying for that.
Of course, nobody is paying for that. The thing is, most factory farms would rather not have YouTube videos where they show anything that goes on in and around their farm. There are things called ag-gag laws. Over the past decade, the animal agriculture industry has been behind the introduction of ag-gag bills in more than half of all state legislatures across the country. These dangerous bills are designed to silence whistleblowers revealing animal abuses on industrial farms. Ag-gag laws currently exist in 7 states, penalizing whistleblowers who investigate the day-to-day activities of industrial farms, including the recording, possession, or distribution of photos, video, and/or audio at a farm. Whistleblowers in their investigative exposés have a long and storied history in America dating back to journalist Upton Sinclair's 1906 book, The Jungle, which uncovered atrocious conditions inside America's meatpacking plants that shocked the nation's conscience. Sinclair's whistleblowing led directly to the passage of the Federal Meat Inspection Act, the Pure Food and Drug Act, and the eventual formation of the Federal Food and Drug Administration, the FDA. Ag-gag laws pose a threat to a wide spectrum of values and issues Americans care about. Social issues potentially negatively impacted by ag-gag laws include, but are not limited to, animal welfare, food safety, marketplace transparency, workers' rights, free speech, and environmental protection. So it behooves the meat industry to not have a YouTube video where you have some fucking worker doing a vlog and is like, hey, how's it going? It's Saturday, I just had some iced tea, and there's like 10 dead hanging cows in the background. That's not really the best marketing campaign they could come up with. So under no circumstances would a factory farm have a YouTube channel. That's just not a thing that would happen, because if it did, there would be even more people not buying their product. And as I said, it's a profit motive. They want to make money. They want to kill animals to sell you for meat so that they can be paid. And it doesn't even have to be the meat industry that's inherently bad. The dairy industry is really bad as well. Not only just because of their practices where, they have to artificially inseminate female cows, so basically practically raping cows in order to continue making milk. But milk, I think, is just unhealthy for you. It's high in cholesterol, and it clogs up your arteries. I found this article on Cleveland Clinic. Can drinking too much milk make your bones more brittle? If you drink milk to keep your bones strong, there's good logic in it. Milk and dairy products are concentrated calcium sources, and we know calcium fortifies bones and prevents osteoporosis. However, a recent study suggests that while some milk may be good, more is not better. In fact, too much milk may be bad for your health. The study, conducted with over 60,000 women aged 39 to 74 and 45,000 men aged 45 to 79, found that too much milk, 3 or more glasses a day, was not only associated with mortality, but also an increased risk of fracture and hip fracture, of bone fracture. Researchers found this surprising association after following the men and women in this study for 22 and 13 years respectively. Over this time, study participants completed questionnaires about their milk drinking habits. After adjusting for other variables, they found that women who reported drinking 3 or more glasses of milk each day nearly doubled their risk of death in relation to women who drank less than 1 glass each day. Men were not as affected as women, but those who drank 3 or more glasses of milk each day still showed a significant increase in mortality. So the link to the study only took me to the BMJ website, not to the actual study itself. So I had to search on the website in keywords to find the mortality study that I was looking for, and I did find it. During a mean follow-up of 20 years, 15,541 women died, and 17,252 had a fracture, of whom 4,259 had a hip fracture. In the male cohort, with a mean follow-up of 11.2 years, 10,112 men died, and 5,066 had a fracture, with 1,166 hip fracture cases. In women, the adjusted mortality hazard ratio for 3 or more glasses of milk a day compared with less than 1 glass a day was 1.93%. For every glass of milk, the adjusted hazard ratio of all-cause mortality was 1.15 in women and 1.03 in men. For every glass of milk in women, no reduction was observed in fracture risk with higher milk consumption for any fracture or for hip fracture. The corresponding adjusted hazard ratios in men were 1.01. The conclusion was high milk intake was associated with higher mortality in one cohort of women and another cohort of men, and with higher fracture incidence in women. Given the observational study designs with the inherent possibility of residual confounding and reverse causation phenomena, a cautious interpretation of the results is recommended. So there might be some truth in the fact that dairy isn't exactly good for you either. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't include a study that might speak the opposite of the study that I just presented here. I found this article on healthline.com. Consuming dairy doesn't make sense from an evolutionary perspective. The idea that adult humans need dairy in their diet doesn't seem to make much sense. Human beings are the only animal that consumes dairy after weaning and consumes the milk of other species. Before animals were domesticated, milk was likely a rare delicacy only reserved for infants. Yet it's unclear to what extent hunter-gatherers sought out the milk of wild animals. Given that milk intake was probably rare among adults during most of human evolution, it's safe to assume that humans were getting all the calcium they needed from other dietary sources. However, even though dairy isn't necessary in the human diet, that doesn't mean it can't be beneficial. This especially applies to people who do not get much calcium from other dietary sources. Now, the study that's cited here in this website is not as in-depth as the one on BMJ.com. It doesn't go into the methods. The study on BMJ had more like scientific terminology and talking about the how our biology reacts to dairy intake, and it had all the percentages and more math was concerned in this study than the one I'm about to cite here. But just for argument's sake, milk, dairy, calcium, and bone fractures in women, a 12-year prospective study. The study examined whether higher intakes of milk and other calcium-rich foods during adult years can reduce the risk of osteoporotic factors. The results were that they found no evidence that higher intakes of milk or calcium from food sources reduce fracture incidence. Women who drank 2 or more glasses of milk per day had relative risks 1.45 for hip fractures and 1.05 for arm fractures, when compared with women consuming 1 glass or less per week. Likewise, higher intakes of total dairy calcium or calcium from dairy foods were not associated with a decreased risk of hip or forearm fractures. These data, that's weird, do not support the hypothesis that higher consumption of milk or other food sources of calcium by adult women protects against hip or forearm fractures. So actually, yeah, they're coming to about the same conclusion that drinking more milk isn't really better for your bones. In fact, it might be the opposite. You might be getting too much calcium, which sounds antithetical to the PR campaign that the dairy industry would have you led to believe. But putting aside the health aspect, if you don't care about your health, I found this on PETA. Now, do I agree with every single thing PETA has said or done? No, I don't. Do I disagree and hate everything PETA says or does? No, I have to be objective. But in keeping with what we're talking about, if you drink milk, you're subsidizing the veal industry. While female calves are slaughtered or kept alive to produce milk, male calves are often taken away from their mothers when they are as young as 1 day old, to be chained in tiny stalls for 3 to 18 weeks and raised for veal. Calves raised for veal are fed a milk substitute that is designed to make them gain 2 to 3 pounds per day, and their diet is purposefully low in iron so that their flesh stays pale as a result of anemia. In addition to suffering from diarrhea, pneumonia, and lameness, calves raised for veal are terrified and desperate for their mothers. You can't discount the fact that when you buy the milk, you are not also contributing to torturous practices that occur in agriculture industry and factory farming. Now, if you want to move away from the emotional, if you don't care about the health hazards, I have one more point to make. Environmental destruction. Large dairy farms have an enormously detrimental effect on the environment. In California, America's top milk-producing state, manure from dairy farms has poisoned hundreds of square miles of groundwater, rivers, and streams. Each of the more than 1 million cows on the state's dairy farms excretes 18 gallons of manure daily. Overall, factory-farmed animals, including those on dairy farms, produce 1.65 billion tons of manure each year, much of which ends up in waterways and drinking water. The Environmental Protection Agency reports that agricultural runoff is a major cause of polluted lakes, streams, and rivers. The dairy industry is the primary source of smog-forming pollutants in California. A single cow emits more of these harmful gases than a car does. 2/3 of all agricultural land in the U.S. is used to raise animals for food or to grow grain to feed them. Each cow raised by the dairy industry consumes as much as 50 gallons of water per day. So yes, when you buy these products, you are contributing to a negative health impacts on yourself, negative health impacts on the world and the environment, and negative effects on the animals that have to suffer in order for you to enjoy this product. Now, I won't be showing anything that happens in factory farms. I don't really think that's going to change anything. It's not really going to help open people's eyes a lot if I just show a bunch of fucking torture right now. That's not really going to solve anything. But anyway, let's continue.
So for him to say that I want to go out of my way to slap these meat producers in the face with money because I need that precious meat and don't care how they treat the animals is outright wrong. It's not illegal, nor is it some type of moral conundrum to like animals but still eat meat.
I respectfully disagree. As earlier, I went into the whole carnism thing, and if you want to look more into Melanie Joy and the things she purports, then by all means, I've included links in the description. All the sources that I've cited in this video will be available for you to go and look for yourself and do your own research and come to your own conclusions.
Now, it's probably worth noting, I fucking love meat alternatives. He mentions that there's plenty of meat alternatives like Beyond Meat. I fucking love that. Beyond Meat slaps hard as shit. Impossible Meat bangs like a motherfucker. I will proudly stand on that hill jerking off and say, vegan meat substitutes is significantly better than real meat.
Well, please, eat more of it. In this video, Charlie displays a courteous view towards vegans, and as a whole, I don't really think he's against veganism.
Humane killing? There's no such thing as humane killing. There's no way to kill a sentient being nicely, because murder is inherently cruel. It is inherently cruel.
This is a point I see brought up throughout all of veganism, that no matter how an animal is killed, no matter how humane it's deemed, it is inherently evil and wrong. But I have to ask, then does that make every animal in the animal kingdom inherently evil? Because the vast majority of animals out there eat other animals to survive, and they don't do it quickly. So does that make every animal in the animal kingdom that eats other animals inherently evil, or is that trait specific to humans alone? And if so, why?
No, it doesn't. In a situation where a lion or tiger out in the wilderness biologically is a carnivore, is in a situation where it has to hunt to eat an herbivore or something else so that it can sustain itself in an act of survival. No, it's not inherently evil for a carnivore to do what a carnivore does. Human beings are omnivores, which means we don't need meat to survive. We choose to eat meat. In a situation, if you're lost in the forest and you haven't eaten anything for 5 days and all you've had is water, and you're about to die if you do not eat something immediately. You haven't found any berry bushes, you can't dig up a potato, you haven't found any apple trees, and the only thing you have is a knife, and you see a deer and the opportunity to pounce on that deer, kill it, and then make a campfire so that you can cook and eat the meat. In an act of desperation and survival, you needed to kill that animal so that you could survive off of its meat. The society in which we live, we have enough resources to provide people food that doesn't have to be animal-based products. We are not constantly in a survival situation. When you're sheltered and you have access to a store and you can leave your home for 5 minutes, go to the store, grab something to eat, come back, sit, watch TV, and eat what you bought, that doesn't have to be an animal product. It's the choice that you make. It's the food choices it's what you chose to buy. It doesn't have to be a steak. It can be anything, really. That's not an animal-based product. The amount of food we grow to feed the herbivore land animals that we eat en masse could end world hunger tomorrow if we converted it all. There really isn't a humane way to kill anything unless you're an old person dying of cancer in a hospital and you're asking for someone to inject you with a serum so that you pass away peacefully. That's a humane way to kill somebody or something. If you're suffering and to end the suffering and then cause as little pain as you can in the process to end the life of someone or something in an act of mercy, that's a humane way to kill something.
I know people always say that to a vegan when they're trying to epic own them in a Reddit comment, but typically they'll just say that that's deflecting or a dumb question, but I actually would like to know your opinion on it, Vegan Gains. What do you feel when an animal eats another animal? Is that animal now evil, and is that whole species bad? It's just, I don't understand where the line is drawn. Humans do it in a way that is significantly less cruel to the animals than how the animals do it to each other.
No, not really. That's a misbelief. Don't ask Vegan Gains his opinion on it. Ask any other vegan's opinion on this, because Vegan Gains, I think we can all agree, is a person who needs to go away. He just needs to go away. He needs to go to an island somewhere and be devoured by some fucking gargantuan monitor lizard, and so that nobody ever fucking sees him again. I think we can all agree on that. The standard practice for what occurs nearly every single day in a factory farm is by no stretch of the imagination humane. What happens every single day to billions of animals a week is not humane. Hanging an animal upside down to slit its throat is not humane. Beating an animal is not humane. Ripping a baby piglet's nuts off is not humane. And yes, that happens. The standard practices for what occurs in factory farms all over this country and across the world is not humane. No effort on your part to argue that humans do it humanely will be correct. It's just not true. It's a misbelief. It's a lie we tell ourselves to make ourselves feel better.
If somebody shot a dog in their backyard, killed it instantly in one shot, would you say, oh, good, he humanely, nicely murdered his dog? No.
Yeah, this comparison you've given here is actual dog shit.
No, it's not.
This doesn't fit anywhere into this ballpark here. Someone came and shot your pet for no reason. When these animals are being killed, there is a reason behind it. It is so that it can provide food for people out there. I think I get the point you're making, but dog and pig, why dog, not pig? Oh, goodness me, what if dog was killed? You'd be upset about dog, but not pig. You can be upset equally for both.
This is a fair point that Vegan Gains made, but I do feel that he could have expanded on it a little bit. Picture a scenario where there's a starving homeless guy, and he comes up to you and in your yard, and he shoots your dog. And this starving homeless guy hasn't eaten anything for days. He's about to die. He needs to eat, and he's miles away from any food pantries. He's in a situation where if he doesn't eat something immediately that day, within that very hour, he might very well die. So his only choice is to come up to somebody's dog, shoot the dog, and eat it. I ask, would you then be okay because the death of your animal served a purpose? The death of your dog served the purpose for feeding and sustaining that starving homeless person's life. Would you not be as upset because the death of your animal served a purpose? It wasn't just killed for no reason. It served the purpose to feed the homeless person. I'm willing to say you might be really upset. I'm a bit of a misanthropist, and I look out for my own. I would rather the stranger, starving homeless person die because I care more about my animal than I do this person that I don't know from Jehovah.
If that pig is a pet and it gets killed like that, you're gonna be upset. It's inhumane. That's not what the fuck we're talking about here. That makes no sense.
The animal doesn't have to be a pet in order for it to be killed inhumanely. And I think Charlie understands this, but it doesn't have to be a pet. You're leaving out the sentience part of it. Every single animal that we eat is a living, breathing creature with a nervous system, with thoughts and feelings and memories and desires and emotions. It doesn't have to be a pet in order for it to be killed inhumanely or for someone to feel bad that it's happening. And I do think Charlie understands this.
Even if it wasn't even a living creature. Let's say your son had a pet rock that he bonded with hugely, and someone comes over and throws it in the trash. That shit's inhumane. It's not right. It's evil. This comparison just doesn't fit into this argument anywhere, because in your example, someone just comes and shoots a beloved family member.
Come on, Charlie. That comparison is dog shit. That comparison doesn't make any sense because, again, we're talking about sentience here. A rock does not breathe. It doesn't feel. It doesn't come to you for attention, for snuggles and love and pets. A rock is a fucking rock. A child would not be as equally traumatized by you throwing his pet rock away. Now, I know everything is relative and subjective here. But a child would not be as traumatized by losing his pet rock as he would seeing his pet dog brutally have its throat slit. I think those two things, it might, I don't know if they cancel each other out. You know, that comparison, come on, dude. That comparison, that's really weak.
It's the silliest way of looking at things, the most childish and naive way of approaching things. By vilifying these people, by vilifying meat eaters, you're ensuring that they're never going to try vegan food. Because they're going to associate vegan food, when they see Beyond Meat, vegan, they're going to associate that with someone who's just fucking crying on YouTube. I fucking tuned into your Doom Eternal stream last night and you started whining towards the end of it about how everything you do loses you subscribers. You then had a moment of self-reflection and realization when you said maybe it's because you're an unlikable asshole. Yes, that's exactly why. That is how you're perceived on YouTube. It's how you conduct yourself. You're extremely condescending to anyone that's not in your club. You literally present yourself as a pseudo-intellectual Twitter user on YouTube. You attack everyone in the fitness industry that even so much as walks by a diner that has meat on the menu. You go out of your way to be an asshole to people and then act surprised when people think you're an asshole. It's how you're conducting yourself. A lot of people in that community go out of their way to try and lecture people or guilt them into joining, which is the worst possible approach to take and only holds it back. The public perception of meat substitutes could be huge right now if the community as a whole didn't keep vilifying them for it, going out of his way to be aggressive. So he still does have a bad attitude towards these things, which is why people aren't, especially in the fitness industry, aren't really looking at vegan alternatives when someone like Vegan Gains is kind of the face for it on the platform, when there are some great vegan bodybuilders and athletes out there. It's just, his approach is a very bad one.
I completely agree. I don't think that hatred and vitriol really works at converting people towards a plant-based lifestyle. I used to eat meat myself. I wasn't born a vegan. I was born and I ate the things that were given to me, and 21 years later, or 22, I can't remember, I became vegan. But I ate eggs, I ate dairy products, I ate meat products, I ate fish, chicken, beef, pork. I ate it all. I had it all. I wasn't born a vegan, and I get it. I get the response that some meat eaters have towards arguments for veganism. I understand why some people are put off to it. These people are passionate because they care. They care about the planet, and they care about animals, and they care about the health of other people. Charlie's right. It's in the way that they conduct themselves and how they present themselves that puts people off towards the idea of veganism. I don't think vitriol works. I don't think hatred works. I think Charlie has a lot of hope here. If it wasn't for my partner Angelica, I wouldn't be vegan today. From her compassion and empathy that led me to becoming vegan. She didn't start out vegan either. Every Easter is like the anniversary of our veganism. I think we've been vegan for 5 years now, and if I'm 25, I was born in 94. I was born in the same year Charlie was, actually. So we're in that same generational wavelength. I hope he continues to eat more plant-based products and buys less meat. I would settle for him becoming pescatarian. I would settle for him becoming vegetarian, and maybe sometime in the future, being more open-minded and moving more towards the idea of a more exclusive plant-based diet. For a short time, I lived with someone who wasn't vegan, who was vegetarian themselves. The relationship didn't end because she wasn't vegan. There were more extenuating circumstances beyond that, which is not worth getting into. In the short time she lived with us, she was eating vegan because we were the ones cooking for the most part. I think Charlie is a very objective, smart, intelligent person who, presented with enough information and in the right, kind, courteous way, could be moved towards veganism even more. I hope he continues to eat more and more plant-based replacements for meat. Having said all that, I think we can all agree that Vegan Gains does not represent the views and opinions expressed by the majority of vegans. I'm willing to believe that it is not nowhere near a majority of vegans who are any way, shape, or form like Vegan Gains and his ilk. People like that need to reassess how they present themselves. And if they did that, I really think there would be more vegan people. I think Charlie is right here that vitriol doesn't work. I really don't have much else to say about this. It's just a topic that I'm passionate about, and I love Charlie, and I love his channel, and I love his content, and I will continue to watch his content, and I just felt the need to respond to the video because it's a subject that's important to me.